Just asking.
That guy has to see this mic on.
The train?
We're good. There they are. They're controlling.
Well, they're going to bring them in now, so ready for the shot. Standing right in front of you. Oh, yeah. Well, it's only a big crowd.
This way. I said they point half over here and half over there. Kafir El Nala. Nala Esfir. Why do I know? Why? You want to know why I know Arabic? Well, it's stationed here. I didn't know there. That's why I look at it.
They asked me to ask you, don't pick your camera.
Yeah, okay.
Lunchtime are the people that's got really good shots. And just because they're like, I'm all about encouraging people. But then you got people like I don't know. Taj, he just gets anybody a shot. They can like get rid of him. Like football, I done swimming.
You make a nuisance of yourself?
That's element.
Down here in Melbourne,
That's John Taylor.
I've got the 70 to 200.
No, I'm serious.
We're good? Yeah, we're good.
Done. 30 seconds.
Down in front. Down in front. John Taylor's here. Everybody settle down.
I will cue you.
Great.
Stand by. 15, stand by.
Good afternoon. My name is Tim Hughes, and I'm a member of the senior executive team at SpaceX. On behalf of the nearly 5,000 employees at SpaceX, We're honored and humbled to be with you here today at this historic site, Pad 39A. And we look forward to making history at this launch site once again. And to that end, it's my pleasure today to introduce Bob Cabana, legendary astronaut and director of the Kennedy Space Center, and Gwynne Shotwell, President and Chief Operating Officer of SpaceX. Gwynne and Bob will make some brief opening remarks, and then they'd be pleased to take questions from you. Please join me in welcoming Bob Cabana. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today. It was a little less than 3 years ago that Gwen and Charlie Bolton and I were out here talking about turning Pad 39A over to SpaceX. You know, this pad would have just sat here and rusted away in the salt air had we not had the use agreement with SpaceX to continue to enable commercial operations for our nation. This is the pad that commercial crew is going to launch from, the Falcon 9 Heavy, and tomorrow we're going to see cargo going to the International Space Station. What an awesome use of a great American asset. And I got to admit, I'm a little bit partial to Pad A. All 4 of my flights went off this pad. So I think this is an absolutely outstanding, exciting time for our nation, for commercial space, for space flight in general. This is absolutely the right thing to do, and SpaceX is a great partner in making this happen. Gwen?
Thanks, Bob. All right, we can. Hi, everybody. For those of you that were here, I think it was April 15th, 2014, my first remark was for one of the first few times in my life I was speechless. And I'm feeling a little bit that way again today. Tomorrow's event and SpaceX being here side by side with NASA is extraordinary for the space industry. It's extraordinary for SpaceX, and I think it's great for the United States as well. CRS-10 should launch tomorrow morning, 10:01. Just keep in mind it's a new pad for us, vehicle, and so we're going to try to lift off tomorrow and have a very exciting day, but we've got opportunities in follow-on days as well. But back to 39A, it's a historic pad. We've taken good care of this pad during the refurbishment and the rebuild. We've saved precious things that needed to be saved. We've upgraded things to make them usable in the contemporary era here today. And I can't really, it's hard to express how excited I am to be here, just 2.5 or so years after we got the lease, being ready, standing on the precipice of a launch here tomorrow. So thanks very much. I look forward to your questions, and yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
So if we could, we'll take questions to the left and the right. There are microphones on either side, and we'll start with the left, please.
I'd like for you to also introduce yourself by name and your outlet.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Ms. Shotwell. This will be your first launch from here since September 1st, and going from Pad A, does that give you a psychological extra boost, and talk about the comeback, at least locally, for getting back in flight?
You know, it would have been great to have flown from 39A in our return flight, but we were ready for the Iridium launch at Vandenberg sooner. You know, every launch for me is a significant emotional event. There's not one launch that I feel comfortable and calm. They're always nerve-wracking. I can tell you it's an extra special launch tomorrow for sure. Maybe extra nerve-wracking in that case.
Hi, Gwen. Irene. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Ken Kramer, Universe Today. My question is for Gwen. You talked a little bit about commercial crew. Can you tell us, give us an update on how you are doing with the Dragon, constructing it, building it, what milestones have you achieved, when do you expect to do the unmanned and manned test flight, and what's the status of the manufacturing of the spacecraft? Thank you.
So we're in the process of building a number of the Dragon 2 spacecraft, and we are targeting to launch that first demonstration flight late this year from this pad, actually. And there's still more work to do on the pad, by the way, to prepare for crew. We've got a crew arm to put in, and we've got some other upgrades as well that we'll work on in between the launches that we execute here from 39A. The program is going well. It's never going as fast as you want it to go. But we're comfortable with our program, and we're certainly looking forward to flying crew on this pad and just at SpaceX in the United States generally.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, Irene Klautz with Reuters. Hi, Gwen.
Hey, Ari.
Can you give us a little update on the leak on the upper stage? What's leaking and what's your options for that? And also for 39A, how much taller are you expecting to need to build the fixed service structure for Crew Dragon? Thanks.
Okay, let me take the easy one first. We've not added any height to the fixed service structure. I think it's 305 feet tall. We were going to add some, or we do need to add some height if we were to add vertical integration capability here for national security space launches. So that's the reason why we would go taller on the fixed service structure. But for crew, we're good where we are. And then as far as the leak, we have found a helium leak in the spin system on the second stage. I believe we've found it. We'll continue to work root cause today and make sure we're back on track for a 10:01 liftoff tomorrow. I think we're going to, as far as I know right now, we're going to proceed with the count and go into it.
Hi, Robin Semengo with the New York Observer. My question is, does SpaceX have an updated timeline for the first launch of the Falcon Heavy? And have you guys decided whether or not you're going to put a customer payload on that first launch?
So we're going to launch Heavy this summer. As soon as we get Pad 40 back up and running for single-stick Falcon 9 launches, we'll move the Falcon 9 program over there and lift off Falcon Heavy over here. So we're still working through the details on that, but it's mid-year. It's still planned for mid-year. Obviously, I said earlier, schedules never stick the way other things do, but we're still targeting mid-year for sure for that. But again, we need Pad 40 operational before we bring Heavy here. We've got a bunch of customers stacked up. And I don't currently have a payload on Falcon Heavy. There's a bunch of guys that want to fly. I think we're feeling like this is a mission that we really want to do ourselves, you know, kind of on our timelines and our pace. So we don't currently have a customer.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hey Gwen, it's Chris Davenport from the Washington Post. A quick Red Dragon question, then I have a follow-up, if that's okay. You know, here we are at 39A, which launched astronauts to the moon, and obviously with the shuttle. Looking forward, you know, you've talked about launching to Mars in 2018. I haven't heard a lot about that since. I wonder if you could update us on where that stands.
Yeah, so the Red Dragon program is really exciting. What we want to do is take Dragons that we've previously flown, put them on a Falcon Heavy, and send them to Mars. Really a great system to look forward to. We were focused on 2018, but we felt like we needed to put more resources and focus more heavily on our crew program and our Falcon Heavy program. So we're looking more in the 2020 timeframe for that, basically the next Mars opportunity for Red Dragon.
Can I follow up real quick? So you had said you're speechless about being here today, but I wonder if you could at least attempt to put into words, you know, what this means to launch tomorrow, you know, from this pad. It means a lot to a lot of people, and I wonder if you could just, you know, give us your best shot.
Okay. So, by the way, I never get nervous speaking in front of a crowd, and my heart is pounding to come out here today. Not because you guys make me nervous, but because I've got a vehicle on this extraordinary pad behind me that hopefully we're going to lift off tomorrow. You know, I've been in this business for almost 30 years. I remember watching the lunar landing, sitting in front of a TV screen, really crappy visual. The screen was all black and white and jaggedy. And I remember my dad telling me at that time, this is really important, and you should pay attention to this. And I remembered that, actually. And have been an avid fan of space ever since, and I mean, this is probably the most exciting launch for me, actually, since it's at SpaceX. Both because it's with NASA, who's been such an extraordinary partner for us in our journey here, and because of where we're launching from tomorrow. Is that good? Does that work?
It's pretty good.
Thanks, Chris.
I'm Brendan Byrne with WMFE and NPR. Can you talk about the landing attempt of the booster, and has this become routine to you, or are you still nervous every time?
You know, I get more nervous for launch than landing. Launch is critical. It's for the customer. It's the primary mission. Landing is really to increase our knowledge base and kind of bolster our technology for ultimately taking people to other planets. You got to be able to land and refly. Otherwise, it's a one-way trip, which we're not interested in, of course. So yeah, tomorrow's attempt, launch attempt, take Dragon to orbit and bring the booster back to landing zone 1. And it will be the third land landing, second one, knock on wood, for a NASA flight. So that's also very exciting. Although I always forget about the landing part. I'm always so much more focused on ascent.
Hi, Gwynne. Tim Fernholtz from Quartz. I wanted to ask about commercial crew as well in light of the GAO report yesterday on the schedule delays. In particular, I guess the engine is going to have to be redesigned for human rating. Can you talk about what specifically you'll have to do for that and how long it will take? Thank you.
Yeah, so the news that came out a number of weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal was not news. We've known about, we've flown with cracks in our turbine wheel from the beginning of the Falcon 9 program. They're cracks we are qualified to fly with. We were comfortable with it for our commercial launches. The CRS program was comfortable with it as well. However, we do want to get rid of them when we're flying crew. The redesign has been in works for quite some time, and the final spin on that engine design we'll fly this year. Many missions before we put crew on top.
Hi, Thaddeus Cesari with the UK Phoenix, and I was hoping to get some additional information on reusability of second stage and also payload fairings.
So second stage is harder to recover because it's going at orbital velocity. You know, first stage isn't quite going at orbital velocity, so it's a little easier to slow down and bring back. Second stage will be harder, I mean, we've learned how to bring Dragon back, which is kind of a third stage, actually. So as far as recovering second stage, that will be kind of an evolution for our next launch system. But we're not. I don't think we're going to look at recovering second stage on the Falcon program. And then you had a follow up, which I forgot. Sorry.
The payload fairings.
Payload fairings. Yeah, we're gonna try to bring them back. We've recovered payload fairings. I'm not sure any of them have survived in one piece, but we do want to recover them, both to be a good steward. You want to, you don't want them floating around like ships, and then also because we would eventually love to reuse them. So you got to land them not in the water. So we're working on that. Maybe this year you'll see that. We want to save everything. It's such a shame. This hardware is so expensive. We want to save everything instead of throwing it away or having it become junk.
Hi, Gwynne. James, in Florida today. You've talked a little bit about the history of the pad. To what extent do you feel like you are making history tomorrow with this being a commercial vehicle and obviously more commercial launches to come off this pad? How significant do you think that is, that we're sort of changing the paradigm here and having a privately developed commercial vehicle flying this mission? Then could you just speak a little as well to, long term, you expect to make history in more important ways, I guess, with these Mars missions. I mean, can you talk about what's coming down the line if all goes well from this pad?
Yeah, so I never look at what we're doing as making history. I really just try to focus on the mission and do a good job for our customers. So I don't think about things in that way generally. What I think it's important to note, it might be a commercial vehicle, but there's lots of government and private science on board as well. And it was originally a government pad, which SpaceX joined forces with and upgraded it. So it's really a hybrid. So tomorrow's launch is a hybrid launch. We've got a government customer under a commercial launch authority, commercially developed launch vehicle. Incredible amounts of science, actually. I'm pretty sure at the press conference the science guys will go through it. I was leafing through the booklet, and there's hundreds of experiments, both taking up and coming down. Really cool stuff. And so I guess I'd rather look at this as a partnership, kind of a hybrid. It's a blend, right? It's a Falcon 9 started out and Dragon started out as a commercial a public-private partnership with NASA, and I feel like all these launches continue to be along that vein, and especially now with the use of 39A.
Just talk about the Mars activity that could, you talked to Red Dragon already, but for crewed missions eventually.
We have not been shy about saying that really the reason why SpaceX was founded, Elon founded this company, was to build space transportation systems that could ultimately take people to other planets. We've got our sight on Mars. For now, frankly, I think destinations outside of the solar system are more exciting than Mars. But we got Mars. So we'll try to get to Mars. Very quickly, actually. We're very focused on accelerating that program as much as we can without losing sight of the important work that we're doing now for NASA and our commercial and other government customers. I mean, I can't do a better speech than Elon did in Mexico, so.
Hi, Ken Chang, New York Times. Another question about commercial crew and GAO. The report said that NASA needs to go look for contingency plans because it was worried that both contractors were going to slip into 2019. I was wondering how confident you are that you can meet your 2018 schedule.
Yeah, I'm confident we'll fly crew in 2018.
Great, so you are getting on it.
So the response to that report this morning was the hell we won't fly before 2019.
Hi, Gwen, Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. I had a question about the future of Falcon 9. I think Elon has mentioned another upgrade coming down the line. I think he's called it Block 5. When do you expect that to debut, and what are some of the upgrades you're going to introduce, and what changes will we see on the vehicle when that flies, and how to follow it?
So Block 5 is the last big spin on Falcon 9, and it's largely driven by the upgrades that we needed to make for the commercial crew program, as well as national security space launch requirements. There is a performance upgrade here as well, largely to get more margins for these other customers, very demanding customers. So there's a performance increase. There's some manufacturing improvements. We've addressed the turbine wheel issue that we talked about earlier here today on that, and probably 100 or so changes on that vehicle.
And I think on this launch you're flying with the autonomous flight safety system for the first time. Why the switch from the manual system that's been in use for decades, and what does that offer SpaceX in terms of independence from conventional range assets?
Yeah, so we were told to fly this. We would have done it anyhow. It makes our operations here at the range much more streamlined. But ultimately, the Air Force wants to kind of get rid of some of the assets that they have here that are necessary for launch. So they wanted, and I believe NASA was driving it as well. It's just a much more streamlined way to launch, relying on newer technology for sure as well. Saves on O&M for the big radars. We've been flying this system in shadow mode for quite many missions, by the way. This is not the first time we're flying it. This is the first time it's primary, which makes it yet another reason to be nervous about the flight.
Yeah, hi, Gwen, Bill Harley with CBS News. Actually, Mr. Clark stole my first question about the flight termination system, but my follow-up was to Bob Cabana. I was wondering, when Crew Dragon starts flying with an automated flight termination system, maybe what an astronaut's perspective is when there's no human being in the loop anymore for ascent eventually.
I'll give you my perspective, Bill, and we still have to certify it for crew operations. But I mean, this is the future. This is where the range is going. It makes sense to me. Prior to shuttle launches, we used to go visit the guys that sat on console that would push the button and show them pictures of our kids and get to know them. But the truth is, with a human in the loop, if you've got an envelope that rocket is to remain within as it goes out over the ocean, if it's approaching the edge of that envelope, a human may terminate it when the system is actually correcting to get back towards the center. Whereas an automated system done correctly, it can iterate fast enough that the system sees that the guidance system is taking it back before it's going to exceed that limit. So in my opinion, if done correctly, an automated system is actually safer, more reliable than having a human in the loop. But we still got some work to do before, you know, a commercial crew is going to certify that this is the way to go, but this is the future.
Thanks, and Gwynne, just a real quick follow on the same question. Does this give you guys the ability to launch, to meet your manifest? In other words, if you don't have to have the range in the loop, does it help you in terms of how fast you can fly? Like, could you fly on the same day ULA is flying, that sort of thing?
So it does streamline the operations here at both ranges, actually, but it doesn't, I mean, we still need the Air Force and NASA to fly and the FAA to fly, but it does tighten timelines for sure. I think the turnover to go from a ULA launch to a SpaceX launch, or, you know, it should be much faster. So yeah, it'd be enormously helpful to getting things done.
Jeff Faust of Space News. Question on future launch manifests. I know you've talked about ramping up the flight rate to launch maybe every 2 weeks or so. At the same time, earlier this week, Iridium said they were pushing back their next launch from April to June because of a backlog of launches on your manifest. Can you talk about how you're going to get through that manifest over the next few months and get to that launch every 2 weeks, right?
Well, we're pretty close. We're pretty close to a 2-week tact right now out of the factory. And out of Texas as well. So we just need to get flying. And then you should see hardware here about every 2.5 weeks initially, going to every 2 or so weeks after that. Yeah, Iridium removed their launch out 2 months, but it was really to fill in the queue of folks that have been waiting for a flight since we were down last September. We're still going to launch all their missions in the contractual time period, though.
Scott Powers from Florida Politics. I have related questions for both Bob and Gwynne. I assume that a whole generations of engineers and technicians made their careers on this path. Gwynne, I'm wondering whether or not you guys were able to hire anyone onto your staff here or through contractors. And Bob, I'd like you to comment, if you could, sort of on their behalf about what it means to see this pad come back to life.
So we have hired some folks from the shuttle program. I don't know if we've hired anyone that was part of building this pad, but we definitely have hired people from the shuttle program. They've been great contributors to SpaceX.
Specific way to work this pad as far as operations go?
You know, when you're at SpaceX, you work everywhere at SpaceX. If there's a need in Texas, you go to Texas. If there's a need at 39A, you go to 39A. I can tell you 39A has had a lot of emphasis over the last 3 or 4 months to get prepared for tomorrow. So it's likely.
You mind repeating the question one more time? I didn't quite
Yeah,
hear.
Bob, obviously a lot of engineers and technicians spent their careers at this pad. I'm wondering if you can speak sort of on their behalf of what it means to see this pad come back to life.
Well, I think it means a lot to see the pad just not sit in waste away. It's a tremendous asset, and everybody that I've talked to is very pleased to see that we're still utilizing it, that it's fulfilling a function. We want to see more launches, government and commercial, off all these pads, and I think we've got the team, the contractor civil service team, the partnership with our commercial partners to be able to do that, and we want to continue to make it happen. You know, I see our role as an enabler. You know, we provide the services to SpaceX to be able to make this operation possible, and it's a great partnership. It's great for our nation. So we want to continue it just like we want to do with the rest of our commercial partners. You know, you talk about young folks coming on board. You know, SpaceX, of course, has a very young team, and they got a few old seasoned guys that they managed to steal too. But you know, here at KSC, we've hired an awful lot of young folks too. I was at a training auditorium event the other day, and I asked the folks to raise their hand how many came after the last launch of the shuttle, and over a third of the folks in the auditorium raised their hand, and they are truly excited to see launches, government and commercial. And what I say is, you know, every launch that we launch off this Cape, the KSC team needs to take credit and be proud of that, because in some way we supported or helped enable it. And so It's an exciting time for spaceflight. We have an awesome future in front of us.
Bart Leahy, Spaceflight Insider. 2 quick questions for Gwynne. One, how soon can we expect to see all of SpaceX's launch pads in operation? And 2, when do you plan to attach the crew access arm to 39A?
So the the crew access arm has to go on by the end of the year, obviously to facilitate our crew demonstration flight. I don't have an exact date for you, but it'll be by the end of the year. And then when will we have all our sites activated? Pad 40 should be back up and running this summer. And Vandenberg's up and running, and as of tomorrow, although 39A is obviously already activated, we did a static fire here this past Sunday. But first flight out of here tomorrow. We have Brownsville as well, and I think we're still doing dirt work in Brownsville, trying to build that kind of giant mountain that you see, the ground support equipment up there for the pad, up to the pad deck. So we're still doing that in Brownsville, Texas.
Rick Lansby with WFIT and NPR News. Do you have an estimate of when we might see a flight with one of the flight-proven boosters?
Oh, good question. Yes. Yeah, we're going to fly we should fly a flight-proven booster this March here for the SES-10 mission. Yep, out of this pad. Very exciting. It's in the booster is in the hangar. Oh no, that one's not in the hangar. It's on its way back to the hangar. It was in the hangar. Went to Texas for testing. Now it's coming back.
Marcia Dunn, AP again for you, Glenn. Boeing recently introduced its Starliner suits. When can we expect to see the Dragon suits? And can you give us a little sneak preview?
I never give away SpaceX secrets. Our spacesuits are really cool, though. They look really good. We've spent a ton of time on the engineering, obviously the utility piece, but we also wanted them to look really good. Like we're trying to inspire the next generation, existing generations, future generations, and maybe even some past generation folks to be thinking about the future and thinking about space travel. I'm not sure. John, do we know when we're rolling the suit out? Don't know. Yeah. It won't be me, though. I won't be rolling that one out ahead of its time. It's great looking, though. It's super exciting.
It's not going to be blue, is it?
It's not going to be what?
Blue.
Blue?
Blue color.
I've seen the suit in a bunch of different colors. Not pink. I've not seen a pink one, though.
Thanks again, James in Florida. Gwen, can you just kind of give us a state of SpaceX coming off that second mishap? How is the company doing? In the worst case scenarios that we always worry about, if you had another bad day anytime soon, how would that affect the company? Can you withstand that?
Yeah, we can certainly withstand another bad day, although I always hate talking about it. We've got cash in the bank and we have no debt. So financially, we're fine. It's hard to make money, though, in a year when you have a failure, though. So I'm not going to kid anybody to say that wasn't a painful financial year for us last year, and frankly, 2015. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean we're not a healthy and a vibrant company. We can withstand another failure for sure. Yeah, I would not have done my job properly had we not been prepared for that. But people are smiling again at SpaceX after the last flight. It was a good comeback. And people are really enthusiastic about the commercial crew program. This flight here out of 39A, Falcon Heavy is super exciting. People are excited about Red Dragon, and they're really excited to start working on the Mars ship. We need to keep everybody focused on the other stuff first. Let's get those things done reliably, fly successfully, and then there'll be lots of activity on the Mars work.
I'm Jim Siegel. I'm with the Celebration News and Spaceflight Insider, and I'm a little curious about the number of launch pads or launch facilities that you have. I can understand one or two, but why so many? I mean, since it seems like a kind of duplication of facilities, is it because they're tailored for different payloads, or what? What's the reason?
So the launch site at Vandenberg is tailored for high inclination launches. You can't really do that kind of launch from here on the East Coast. And we probably would be fine with these two plus the Vandenberg site, but we do like operational flexibility and geographic diversity as well on launch sites. Frankly, the fact that we were this close to operations on 39A when we had the event on September 1st last year was enormously helpful. It obviously takes longer to rebuild that pad than to get this one up and running quickly. So, I mean, from a business perspective, you really want to have multiple launch sites. Commercial missions go rapidly. You know, my commercial customers are happy to, sit on the deck as short a possible time, or as short as possible. But many of our government customers are likely to sit on the launch mount longer. And so, you don't want to back up your commercial missions while you're waiting for national security space launch to go. So I think it's, it's the mature thing for us to do is to have launch pads, and we are getting really good at building them.
Hi again. When you said that a new launch pad costs roughly $100 million, was this in that ballpark, or about how much did you save by being able to take over and refurbish some of the shuttle assets?
Yeah, keep in mind this is more than just a launch pad, right? There's the crew capability, there's Air Force vertical integration capability that's going to get enhanced as well. So I wouldn't say that we saved a bunch of money here.
Is $100 million a good figure to use, or do you have a better ballpark?
I did not ask my finance guys how much we've spent so far. It might be less than $100 million. But I think when it's fully outfitted for crew and NSS, it'll be well over that. How's that?
Thanks.
Brendan from WFE again. Any hiccups you're expecting tomorrow? Do you have FAA approval to launch? Are there any range issues, weather, anything that you're worried about?
So I was worried about an FAA launch license and weather, and both have cleared up. So we've got to obviously address this spin issue tonight. But I don't see anything between now and then. Yeah, so everybody keep everything crossed for a good flight tomorrow.
Hi, I just wanted to ask the delay or the worry on the launch license. Can you talk about why that came in so last minute?
Well, I think we normally get our launch license from the FAA pretty close to the actual launch itself. This one was more work for everybody because it's first time we're launching off of 39A, SpaceX launching off of 39A. It's not really considered a government pad anymore either, so the oversight that we have over at Pad 40 with the Air Force, we don't have here. So everybody had to figure out what are the roles and responsibilities, who's doing what, make sure you check all the boxes to make sure no one gets hurt out there. And so it took longer. That plus the autonomous flight safety system, that was a big challenge, getting that done. We did certify that for range safety perspective, but as Bob mentioned earlier, we still have to certify that for crew. So certification work is by no means done there. But the FAA has blessed it, the 45th has, as has the 30th.
Hi, Ken Chang from New York Times again. For the Mars ship work, when were you hoping to really start accelerating that work, and how are you looking to finance all that?
So I think we will hit, we need to finish the work that we're doing right now. So, as we wind up commercial crew, and I don't mean wind it up as in not do it anymore, I mean wind up the development piece on that, wind up the development on Falcon Heavy, then you'll start to see a shift in development teams at SpaceX. But we will always have great engineers and technicians working, the programs that we're working right now. A year or so is when we'll start to shift focus, is my guess.
Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now again. What's the plan for the rotating service structure here? And if it's going to come down, when can we see it come down?
Yeah, it's definitely coming down. It's coming down in bits and pieces. So you have to do a before and after. I think the first 2 floors are down. What we're doing is we're pulling it down, actually literally piece by piece. and NASA gets the scrap value for that metal. So just as we get to it, we pull more down and give NASA a check. Have you seen a check yet? It's in the mail.
We get the scrap. We don't get the money from SpaceX. And we have to get rid of it.
Oh, you have to get rid of it? Oh, we can sell it for you.
We have time for one more question from this side.
Ed Kramer, Universe Today, Northeast Astronomy Forum. Back to Mars. Can you talk about, are you going to have a science payload at all on this first mission? I understand NASA is not going to have one now. Are you going to have industry, universities at all compete to submit proposals?
Are you talking about for Red Dragon?
Red Dragon.
Oh, no, we were going to fly some stuff on the 2018. We could fly more in 2020 because people are more ready to fly in 2020 than 2018. No, we're going to put as much payload on Dragon as we can. By the way, Dragon landing alone will be the largest mass put on the surface of Mars. Just a Dragon alone, empty Dragon, will be pretty crazy. Yeah, but no, there's a bunch of folks that want to fly. European customers, commercial guys. Yeah, there'll be stuff in Dragon, plus our own stuff. That's right. All right.
Well, thanks very much for your time and attention today. We're really excited about tomorrow's launch. I think the only thing that's left to say is go NASA, go Falcon 9, and go CRS-10. Thank you.
Thank you.